Heyo! Good Friday morning, and the weekend is almost here. And I'll leave it at that. No, I won't. I'm going to get into this storm because this is going to be a pretty significant late season storm coming off of a winter that's been really lame in the snow department. And for the most part, this won't be a really large snowmaker for the immediate coastline or even for a few miles inland. But as you ramp up in elevation, you're going to ramp up in snowfall amounts. And it wouldn't shock me if there's like a 20 to 25 inch amount somewhere in Maine or New Hampshire when this thing is said and done on Sunday morning. Real quick, before we talk about tomorrow's snow, let's talk about the lack of it this entire winter. So this is the snow we've seen this season. The bars on the left, that's Portland, Bangor, and Caribou. The bars on the left are what we've seen this season, and the bars on the right above each town are what we should see. And, you know, we're like 40 inches below the average in Portland, 37 inches below the average in Bangor. What's that? 40-ish inches below the average in Caribou. This 24.7 in Portland, hang on, I need my readers, would put us, like if we got no more snow this entire winter season, it would put us in the '1 spot for least snowy winters on record, and they go back to the 1800s. 1979, the winter of 79 and 80, that season, there was 27.5 inches of snow. Right now we're at 24.7. So that's roughly 3 inches. We could see 3 inches in Portland tomorrow. I kind of want to set a record. I mean, don't you? Like, I love snow, I love winter, I love ice skating, I love skiing, all that kind of stuff. And if I didn't get it to do it that much this winter, I just want to set a record. And it's possible we don't because of this darn storm. Bangor, so far 30.2 inches. So on the list here, the winter of 79 and 80, that only had 22.2 inches in Bangor. So we're in the #2 spot because the winter of 90-91 had 33.4. There's a really high chance that we're going to fall out of the 2 spot, get to the 3 spot, and maybe the 4 spot, because the 4 spot is 35.7. So 5.5 inches of snow tomorrow night in Bangor. That's pretty doable. Like, I'd put Bangor at 6 inches right now. So we probably fall out of the 2nd spot, that's 3, 4, into the 5 spot. We'll see. I mean, it just, it's been a lame winter, and this storm is going to, push us out of some records. So this storm is coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. And the Gulf is starting to, I know it doesn't feel like it around here, but the Gulf is starting to change, to warm up, get more humid down there. They're starting to see their thunderstorm season erupt. So there's a little more moisture than what is normally present in the middle of a winter, like in January or February. A little more moisture available to tap into. And we're going to tap all of it. There's going to be this conduit from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up into New England. And it's going to encounter this really cold air that's out there right now. I mean, you felt it all day yesterday with those wicked wind gusts and, temps barely above freezing. Last night we dropped into the teens. Today we've had wind chill issues. Tonight we're going to go back into the 20s. So there's going to be enough cold around to get us to get snow. And we're going to start as snow everywhere. So let's start with a timeline. And I'll get you up to about 3, 4 in the morning, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. This is when the flakes are kind of arriving. And it's going to be relatively light at first, and it's going to take a while to get into eastern Maine. In fact, we're probably not seeing much happen until about 7, 8 o'clock in Bangor tomorrow morning. But by mid-morning, 9 a.m., it's a steady snow everywhere, all the way up through Millinocket into the Canadian border. And there's steady, moderate snow for all of western and southern Maine, stretching up through central Maine and into eastern Maine too. And there's no mixing, as you can see yet. Now what's going to happen here, because there isn't a true high to the north to trap all of the cold air in, we are going to erode some of it. And by the middle of the day and into the afternoon, we're going to see some warmth come in along the coast. it's not going to be super warm. Like, I'd be shocked if we get above 40 right now. And this could all change a little bit. I mean, it just takes slight wobbles to make big adjustments. But right now, I'd be kind of surprised if we get too far above 40 degrees. So we're going to get snow to fall first, and then we're going to start to mix and change over to rain along the immediate coastline. Aloft, that warm air will be able to penetrate and surge a little farther inland, and that's where you get into this pink. And watch how extensive this pink gets. That's the afternoon. Tomorrow evening, it's all the way up into the foothills. It's past Lewiston, it's past Augusta, and it's past Bangor. So it's not snow at that point, but it's also not above freezing either at the lowest layer. So it's going to either be a thick layer of cold at the surface, which would create sleet pellets because a raindrop would freeze into a pellet, you know, something solid, or that raindrop makes it all the way to the ground, and at the ground there is sub-freezing air, and that's freezing rain. So we could get a glaze. And that pink, you know, is all in here, and it goes all the way up to about the foothills. The mountains out of all this, and far northern Maine out of all this, snow, pure snow. And I'm thinking now that it's going to be cold enough to be more of a powdery snow. Like after this storm on Sunday, every ski resort should be packed. I mean, why not? I mean, go out with a bang this season. Go have some fun and rip it up. Now, I won't, because I can't ski in powder, because one ski goes that way and the other one goes that way. It's like that. So I'm not doing it. Oh, you like my martini socks? Yep. I plan to have one or two of those tonight. Can you see them, Julie? You can see them? Yeah. I like my martinis shaken, not stirred. And usually no fruit, like no vermouth either. Just give me Kettle One. I'm good. Anyway, I digressed because it's Friday. Where was I? Oh, I was talking about going out with a bang, ripping it up, all that kind of thing. Yeah, I can't ski powder at all. Like last weekend, I did ski up at Sugarloaf, and this was that Thursday night into Friday? Yeah, Thursday night into Friday, or Friday night into Saturday. There was like 3 or 4 inches of fluff on top of, you know, the hard pack. And I was having issues with that, like controlling skis. I started to get it a little bit. Someone said, hey, sit back in your skis and just kind of float. And people have told me that time and time again, and it's never like clicked up here, but it was starting to click last weekend. I don't think I could do, you know, 15 to 18 inches of floating, but 3, 4, 5 maybe now, I'm starting to like have a little more confidence in. But my biggest fear is like ripping up my ACL, which is what my wife just did. Yeah, this guy in here, I don't want to do that. My wife just did that, and it's not fun. So what's going on with this TV monitor? Did I hit? Okay, I don't know. That was weird. So anyway, you know, it's gonna be mostly snow out of this, all mountains and all north. So that's tomorrow night, and then it'll kind of push on out of here after midnight, and by daybreak Sunday the sun is back out, and we'll get into some sun. But it's a really complicated forecast, and nailing down these snow amounts is really tough, because you know there's going to be a rain-snow line, there's going to be a sleet, freezing rain line, there's going to be fluff in the mountains, but there's going to be heavy wet snow, you know, closer to the coast and inland, compacting things. There's a million little variables to think about. I would say that this is, you know, probably our hardest snow forecast of the season. I think I can confidently say that. Maybe not our hardest storm forecast. I think some of those big ones back in January that were not really snow, they were like rain and coastal flooding, were a little more difficult. So this is what I think right now. And again, these things can shift. So I want you to keep coming back and checking on our forecast throughout the day and into tomorrow morning. But along the coast, the sliver of 1 to 3 is now just that. There's not much left of it. It's gotten a little colder. So along the immediate coast, you know, like Portland, probably like 3 inches, but, you know, Cape Elizabeth, you're like 1 to 3. So like if you're, you know, to the south side or east side, however you want to look at it, of 95, yeah, 1 to 3. But on 95, no. 295, that's the separator. Route 1, that's the separator. Route 1, that's the separator, kind of a thing. So Lewiston, Auburn, Augusta, Sebago Lake, interior York County, Sanford area, You're firmly in a 3 to 6 right now, firmly. Bangor probably right about 6, as I mentioned earlier. North and west of there, where it is all snow, you're 6 to 12 plus. And there are going to be some spots, you know, all of the higher terrain in here where it's really going to fluff up, and you get, you just get what we call fluff factor, where the ratios are so insane. The snow to water ratio is so insane that someone's gonna get 20 inches out of this, and maybe more. I mean, maybe more. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a 2-footer somewhere. Not at all. Not at all. Now the good news is that's all powder up there. Okay, there's not going to be a ton of wind with this storm. There's not going to be enough wind to be like, oh yeah, widespread power outages or anything like that. There's not going to be any coastal flooding either. There may be drainage flooding issues along the coast because when this 1 to 3 ends, we go over to rain, and that 1 to 3 is going to clog up drains, and then there's probably 1.5 inches to 2 inches of rain on top of that, like drainage flooding issues, but not coastal flooding. Beaches, you're fine. Docks and wharfs and all that, you're fine. You know, it's not like what we had back in January or a few weeks ago even when we had that other big tide. In between here, though, like in this 3 to 6 zone and even a little bit into the 6-inch zone, 6+ zone, it's going to be a wet snow, and then it's going to go to ice, like sleet and freezing rain. So this is going to be a mess tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. That's, you know, that's all I can qualify it as. I don't like to tell people whether you can drive or whether you can't drive. That's not my job. You guys interpret how you can drive. People drive better than others, you know. So, but I think it's going to be a mess. Along the coast, you know, the immediate coast, this 1 to 3 washes away. You know, you got 3 inches in Portland, 3-ish, either side of 3 inches in Portland. Maybe all that doesn't wash away. Maybe there's some slush still out there in the afternoon and in the evening. The other issue with this zone in between the powder and the lighter snow amounts is the potential for power outages. So I kind of highlighted this area where you're in between the coast and the high terrain in the mountains, and it does include Sebago Lake and Lewiston and Augusta and Bangor. All right? So in this area in here, the snow is going to be a heavier wet snow, and it's going to be clingy. It's also going to be heavy wet and clingy along the coastline. I just think we're going to go over to rain fast enough where we're not going to get to this 6-inch threshold. That's usually right around the number, 6 inches, where branches or limbs start to crack from the weight of 6 inches of wet snow, because there's more water in it, so it's heavier than 6 inches of fluff or 6 inches of powder. So I think it's in this zone right here where power outages are our largest concern. Yeah, there's way more snow in the mountains, but it's powder. I don't think we're going to have an issue with outages up there. And yeah, it's just as wet and heavy along the coast, but there's less snow. Now, can that change? Could we include the coast into this? Absolutely, that could happen. And there are 2 ways that it could happen. One is the entire column of air stays colder longer than I'm expecting. And this 3 to 6 comes all the way down to the coastline, and there's no longer a 1 to 3, right? Or we keep it 1 to 3, and when we go to rain, there's still a little layer of cold at the surface. And then that rain becomes freezing rain. And a glaze of ice becomes a thicker glaze of ice. And that can add weight to limbs also. So those are the 2 ways that this zone could actually include the coastline. Right now I don't include it because of how I've told you, but it is a possibility, and I'm not willing to rule it out yet. I think that's about it. Again, it's not a huge wind maker. There are no coastal flooding issues. So we're not going to get you know, inundated with water, salt water, you know, through the marshes, closing off roads. Some of those shore roads that are right up against the beach walls, you know, there's not going to be debris over them or anything like that. We're not going to lose docks and wharfs and boats and things like that either. So this is different than the storms, you know, we're kind of getting used to throughout most of the winter that we just went through. You know, this is more of your classic, you know, late winter, early spring snowstorm where You know, the elevations get the highest amounts. The lower ones close to the coast get the least, but there's going to be some wild cards in there somewhere where someone might get a larger glaze of ice and there are outages from it. Or, you know, someone holds on to cold a little longer and there's larger amounts of snow. So these are tricky little suckers. Or I shouldn't say little, these are tricky big suckers. That's about all I got for you. I hope you, you know, get through it fine, because on the back side of it, Sunday looks good, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday looks good. Next week, you know, even if there is a storm, it's probably too warm for much in the way of wintry precipitation. It's probably wetter. I wouldn't say, though, it's going to like significantly warm up. So this isn't going to just like melt away instantly. You know, it's going to take a while to melt away. We're going to have a snowpack. We're actually going to have a snowpack for the first time in a while out there. That'll last for days and days and days, and maybe through the rest of this month and into early April too. That's all I got. Who's going to? Oh, you know who's going to be working tomorrow morning is Mallory Brook, and she's awesome. And she's actually never done a storm center in studio with like a sweater on, so it'll be her first sweater storm center, which will be pretty fun to watch. So check out Mallory tomorrow morning, and then this afternoon. We kind of have all hands on deck today. We've got Keith Carson will be in, Dana Osgood, and Jason Nappy too. Myler is on a little vacation. He's actually down in Beantown in Boston, where I don't think he's been before. I think this is his first visit to Massachusetts and to Boston. So I look forward to his stories on Monday, and you know, at some point we'll share them with you. All right, everybody, we'll see you later. Bye bye.